about something that some people want to talk about. And we're going to talk about something they don't want to talk about.
Well, that's what the show's all about, right?
And something in between.
Okay.
And our in-between is our in-between. So you all just roll with us. But come on, let's do this thing. Let's get on the air with DeeMcNair and Cheryle Johnson. It's the Jumpstart Talk Show, everybody. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, now, let's just jump in.
Okay.
We're girls.
We girls.
We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. What are we talking about today? If you have not been listening to your local news, national news, there has been a violent outbreak in the schools nationwide. Whether you're in the United States or abroad, our young people are under a threat. Now, you might think I'm making fun. You might think I'm joking. I am emulating this because this is how the story is being told. Then you hear, breaking news, breaking news. We are now on the scene. There are estimated 23 dead, and we are thinking 43 injured, and we'll be bringing you top numbers at the top of the hour. Stay tuned. Aren't you tired of hearing that? Aren't you tired of the excuses, the facts, the ideas, the recommendations, and none of it has changed a thing? Not this year, not last year, not the year before, not 10 years ago. I am talking to you today on the Jumpstart Talk Show from my heart. I am not saying that I have the answer. I'm not saying that I have all the facts. But the one thing I know is that we cannot sit by and not have a voice when our young people are being murdered, threatened, oppressed, frightened, terrorized, and demolished in the schoolhouse. Now, I'm going to be Southern and real. Bring prayer back. Mm-hmm. It's not about gun control. I'm going to be an intellectual and say, I do believe gun control is a part of it, but we also need to empower our teachers. Lie. Okay, that's just my opinion. I'm going to be neutral and say, let's all come to the table.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, let's come to the table and let's look for solutions to support our children, and save our schools.
Sounds like an awesome thing to do. I'm ready. You ready?
Yeah, you're ready, but I'm ready to just be real, girl.
Okay.
So let's start it. There were some shootings over the last, well, not over the last, there have been some shootings for years now. We have heard at the top of the conversation, gun control is the answer. Your thoughts, I must ask. Go ahead, girl. What's your thoughts?
Well, since I grew up in the hood of Baltimore City, we
Oh,
grew
the
up
hood.
with
The hood.
we grew up with guns.
Okay.
So, gunfire, we just, go in the house or whatever. But I think your point about coming back to our first love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be prayer in the schools. When that left, it opened the door for a lot of things. When government said we can no longer reprimand our children without them calling 911, that opened up a door.
Don't try it.
And there's no respect, and it all begins at home.
Oh, good grief. Hold it. Stop right there. Okay, we might need to stop the camera because you are implying somebody, I'm not going to even say an adult, someone in the home of the child has a responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
The devil is a lie is what they say.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that it's in every home, but what I'm saying, because you will always have those children who, even though they have that structure and love and nurturing and guidance in their home, when they step outside the door, they are led, they are influenced by outside forces. So it's just our role as a parent to make sure that we put all the tools in place for our children to be safe. I think we haven't done our part. One, kids are becoming parents a lot earlier. So 14, 15, 16, you're just a kid yourself. And now grandma who's 35, right?
Grandma trying to get a groove on.
Exactly. Grandma trying to get her man just like you, and so little Johnny, little Susie over here just doing their own thing. Like now, because of technology, they can put their own food in the microwave. Nobody got to be home to care for them. They can work the remote control. TV has become a really big influence, and it breaks my heart to see. I mean, it's just, we haven't done our job. as parents.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Please
sorry,
don't send
parents,
me any hate mail.
but
Please don't send me any hate mail.
no, don't send it to Dawes. Send it to me.
We're parents. We're parents.
Yeah.
We are parents, both physically and spiritually, to many, many, many young people. And I don't want to see not one of them die. But I agree, it goes back to the home.
Yeah.
You know, mama, when he kicked you at 2, he slapped you at 8, he cursed you at 9, and she downright locked you out your own house at 12. Houston is not what we want to say you have a problem. Mama, you got a problem.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
I just get so passionate about this. It has to start at home. And not just the 4 walls of your house, it's the community.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not talking about going back to the old days when everybody said you got a whipping at school, you got a whipping when you got home by mama, and daddy whipped you when he got home. But you know what? There was a higher level of accountability.
Yeah.
Because there was going to be no secret.
Yeah.
And I'm going to digress. Because you weren't going to be sleeping with the teacher, and therefore the teacher wouldn't tell your mama. Because the teacher was an adult, a sane, lucid, common sense, as my grandmother would say, mother wit adult who knew he or she should not be sleeping with a child, a student, in the school, much less their classroom. So let me clarify for any adult out there who thinks it's okay to have a relationship with an 18-year-old student who goes to your school but that is not in your class, and because they're 18, you feel that they have the right and the ability to consent to a consensual relationship. Well, I'm sitting here on the air and I think I have the right to say you consent to let me drain your bank account. Does that sound good to you too? I'm being real.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah.
So that it goes back to the home and the community.
Yeah.
Help parents out, community.
Yeah.
I agree that there are some parents who will shoot you
Yeah.
for telling them that their daughter sneaked a boy in the house. But I'd rather tell and that girl live another day than not tell and she get murdered, or and you know you are an advocate for domestic violence. We may have to go there later too. But or she become a victim of domestic violence because I, as a neighbor, am afraid to speak up.
Well, remember back in the day, because we're so young and beautiful,
Oh,
right?
my
So
plastic surgery
like
looked
back
good.
in the day, it actually took a whole village
Mhm.
to raise a child, right?
Mhm.
So I went to your house for dinner because my mom was working,
Mhm.
but she already done said my kids can come over till I get off work. So when you did something wrong in the community, everybody knew it. So your mama could spank me, and then when my mom got home and she heard it, I was gonna get another spanking.
Mhm.
But we don't even know who our neighbor is, right?
Oh, and I admit I'm
Yeah.
slightly guilty of that, but the one thing I am not guilty of, I am my neighbor's mother's keeper. Meaning, I may not be speaking to the adults, but I can tell you, the children in my neighborhood, stop the car in a minute, get out.
Yeah.
Hey, sweetie,
Mhm.
where mama? Let's call her.
Yeah.
I do know the parents' phone numbers of the children in my neighborhood, even though many of those children have never set foot in my grassy yard. I know who they are.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking, and I was having a conversation with a young lady a few moments ago, and I was sharing with her about one of my favorite Lebanese philosophers was Cheryle.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of the story of Jesus with the Sermon on the Mount.
Mm-hmm.
And here, Mr. Kabrim is up on this mountaintop, and the people are down in the village, and they're saying to him, "Tell me, teacher, about our children." And he says, "Our children are not our children. They are gifts from God.
Mm-hmm.
We, the parents, are the bow, and they are the arrows, and it is our job to point them in the right direction."
Mm-hmm.
And we have failed to do that. When we, as parents, want our kids to be what we want them to be,
Mm-hmm.
not recognizing that in the beginning, God already knew
Yes.
the plans that He had for us to give us a good and expected end.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't believe me, go to Jeremiah 29:11, right?
Yes.
So I think until we do get back to the basics, which is in the Word, which is the roadmap to raising our children, and even if they go astray, there'll be like the prodigal son or the prodigal daughter, because I was a prodigal daughter.
Oh, you always been real about it.
Yeah. So when I finally came in, my mother was like, "Oh, thank you, Jesus," and she didn't even believe in God at the time, right? She was like, "Oh, thank you, Jesus. I was so worried about you because I was out there." And it could have been the other way. And that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that at 13, 14, 15, 16, some young girl ain't out there doing the do looking for some love because she ain't got no daddy. Yeah, she ain't got no daddy at home, right? Looking for that love at home. So we go and spread like eagles, unprotected, and then before you know it, here comes a little baby. Talking about men being in place. And I think one of the most powerful books I read by the late Dr. Miles Monroe was about man's role.
Man's role.
And he said in his book that God gave man dominion over the earth. He was taking it from the scripture, but not people. And I think in marriage and raising kids, we kind of get that twisted a little bit, right? We think, well, I'm the man, I got this, you do as I say, but that's not how it works. We're a whole team in here, and everybody's voice is important. And so when we don't listen to our children, because they have a message too.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot
out of the mouth of babes.
Absolutely. And so I think you know, drinking from the Word of God, Dolores, and you just can't have this conversation without taking it back to Him.
Can't.
So I think until we turn from our wicked ways and let God kind of redo us again, it just we'll find ourselves back into this spiral again. And that's why the Bible tells us to pray for those who have authority over us. Because everybody that says they love me really don't. And there are a lot of people in the world, and I call them politicians. And they're like, sure, I'm not no politician. I said, yes, you are.
You got the
because
you all can't see it, but we've got people in the studio today, and Cheryl's got them rolling. It's like having a stand-up comic up here.
It's like, you know, I was like, but you are a politician. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. I said, you're acting just like them. No, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. You're interested in looking right, but not doing what's right.
Amen.
And that's what many politicians do. And the ones who want to do right are overpowered or overshadowed. So as parents, we never want to be politicians. We want to be all the things that our kids need. Because I can tell you, when I do domestic violence teen workshops, when I ask that one question to the teens, I said, what is it that you want most from your family? From your mom, from your dad, whatever your household dynamics are. And the number one response, Dolores, has been love. Love and guidance. They would rather have love and guidance than a $200 pair of tennis shoes, a new video game, a new iPhone 8, 10, or whatever that thing is, right? They just want to know that they're loved. And when you got that, everything changes. There is nothing like love.
Love conquers the multitude.
Oh my God, yes.
And you know what I think, and I'm being honest, I want to share truth about myself, and you know, because the truth will set you free. I remember having a young person in my life who said to me, I would rather be happy in a small house than unhappy in a big house. Our children and our young people and our friends and our family want truth. So also, if your love is not truth, do not think you're fooling children. They're not fooled. You know, we've heard, I don't know if you all have heard it, but I know I have, and I know you have too, about, you know, a dog knows who loves him. And, you know, I would say to some parents, if your children at no age ever did want to spend time with you, you need to check yourself.
That's a major problem.
To have the children that God has blessed my husband and I to have. Like you said, I realized one day when one of my children called me gangsta mom, and I said, gangsta mom? Is that a compliment? And, you know, it was a huge compliment when it was explained to me. They said, you're going to do whatever you got to do because you're going to do. I said, what? They said, you're going to do whatever you got to do. If we say we want chicken and dumplings, which is one of my specialties. I can't cook it.
Oh, I thought it was the corn pudding.
That's her. She's making her request known. Ignore this, guys.
Come on now.
This is a slick way of slipping it. I will say
that I haven't gotten yet. Oh,
you did get the corn pudding.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. You just need to show up and pick it up. Show up, pick it up. Side note. We digress. But with that said, they said that they knew if flour wasn't in the house, if milk wasn't in the house, mom's going to get it. You know, that was one of the things I did try to raise my children going, you're not going to have to just eat because I say so what I cook. I'm willing to try to be flexible, like you said, because they have a voice. But they were just telling me, they were like, Mom, unlike all the other moms, when we knew you didn't have the money, when we knew you had worked all day and worked all night, because I used to work double shifts, they said they knew I was going to find a way. And I said, and that's a good thing. They said, because we knew you loved us.
Yeah.
We know you love us now.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the boys actually said, they were so glad I'm not their friend. I said,
Yeah.
oh, well, I thought we were friends. They said, we are now because
Yeah.
I'm an adult.
Right.
But you were always mom.
Mm-hmm.
I could play, but I tell people, I don't want to have to yell at you. I'm not the yelling mom. I don't like that. I want you to hear me because you respect
Boys,
me. But
you know, real boys don't cry. They don't play with dolls. You know, you just don't do that. You a sissy, all this kind of stuff, you know. But when my kids were coming along, you know, what was the little doll? What was his
Barbie
name?
doll?
No, it was
No, that's
the
right.
the Cabbage Patch thing.
The Raggedy Ann and Andy.
That's how old, right? So, but they had
Oh, you're making me hot.
Patch.
Oh, I'm having
They
a hot
had
flash.
the Cabbage
80s
Patch
okay.
dolls.
I
You
do.
know,
They were ugly,
I
too.
I
They
know,
were
right?
ugly.
But the kids loved them. I never bought my sons guns and pistols, but you know, their dad was like, "That's a doll, baby." I said, "That's just a toy. One day they're gonna have a wife. They need to know." I know, I took it to the extreme.
Yeah, you took it to the extreme.
but
Just so you all know, I did not buy my boys a baby doll. No.
You know,
no.
a Cabbage Patch Kid, or they had a Pee Wee Herman doll, you know, and all
Oh my
that kind
goodness! Wow,
yeah.
you really did go out there.
Yeah, I mean, because
This is a prime example that every house can be different and still be the right house for that family.
but it had nothing to do with their sexuality. This is what I'm saying. The stigmatisms of life that we put on our children, it's crazy.
We were digressing, you know, a minute there, but we were talking about, you know, you bought Cabbage Patch dolls, because I had a little hot flash there with, on that one, Cabbage Patch dolls, for your boys, but that didn't mean you were trying to manipulate, change their sexuality.
No, I mean, it just back in the early 80s, Cabbage Patch dolls were the unisex
Mm-hmm.
for kids. You know, they had Pee Wee Herman, they had all of them.
Well, little girls, I can remember little girls walking around with gun belts.
Well, see, my boys never had gun belts.
I did. I had cap gun. How?
Well, I guess because I grew up in an area where guns were always blazing.
Oh, welcome to the
so,
studio. We got more people coming in the
All
studio.
right.
It's awesome.
That's
Awesome.
nice. So, yeah, I mean, but even with the dolls and even with the guns, there is still that opportunity to teach about these things.
Mhm.
Whether, you know, like this is what you do with a gun. And for me, like when the kids would take the Cabbage Patch dolls and throw them across the room, and I would say things like, one day this might be your wife. Is this how you know, you're going to marry a woman? Is this how you're going to treat her? You're going to throw her across the room? And then they would pick it up. You know, always an opportunity for a lesson learned.
To teach.
Pick it up, hug it, and then go sit it over in the chair somewhere. You know, then they didn't pick it up for a while. But that's our role as parents, because kids don't know. They think they know.
They
but
don't know.
But
But when do parents take it too far? You know, I was talking about this thing about gender neutral. You know, there's this big wave, gender neutral. You know, not just with colors, but with toys. And wanting to expose our boys to things that are considered more feminine, wanting to expose our girls to women's lib and things that are considered more masculine. But I would ask some parents, are you the one that's confusing them?
Right.
Why not allow our young people to be what they are? A baby, a child, a toddler, a baby, a toddler, a child,
Yeah.
a preteen, a teenager, a
Young
young
adult.
adult. There is a gap. Young adult, an adult, and then hopefully one day who they believe they are. None of us arrive overnight. And so when we look at these people, mostly boys, as we were saying, I'm not discriminating saying there haven't been girls. So by the way, we are not on our tablets, on our phones, looking up statistics So, please don't, no hate mail. I'm just saying, with these young men particularly, I have to wonder what you said. Where is the love?
Yeah.
Where was the ability to be true to who they were when they went to the teacher, when they went to the parent, when they went to the friend? We're hearing about a lot of these people talk to their friends. And I think the most recent case, there were more than one person who knew. And no one took it seriously.
Yeah.
And it's all over our public service announcements. It's all over TV. It's said in the schools. It's said in the workplace. It's said at the summer camps. If you know someone who wants to hurt themselves or others, if you think that you might want to hurt yourself, we talk about the 800 numbers, but why didn't someone speak up? Some people are talking about the FBI got the tip. Okay, go back to what you said, Cheryle. It starts in the home.
Yeah, I mean, this particular instance in Florida, this young man was already adopted, so there was a breakdown
Right there.
in the beginning before his adopted mom passed away. So he had a lot of issues. And then here this wonderful host family was like, okay, we feel sorry for you. We're going to take you in.
Mm-hmm.
And, kudos to them, even if, because we all miss the mark as parents.
We do. So I'm not judging
Yeah,
anybody. No.
we all miss the mark, and never say what you won't do, because you don't. If that was me, you don't know what you'll do in a situation. But it takes us back to our first love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that everybody is a Christian. Whatever your faith is, whatever your religion is, there is always a discipline lesson in that.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I have read and what I have studied and been around people in various religions, they are very structured about raising their children. Mm-hmm. And as Christians, and I'm talking about because I'm a Christian, as Christians, we miss the mark in so many ways because we want to live our lives through our children. Well, my mama beat me all the time. I'm not going to beat mine. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to talk to him. Go sit in the corner, Johnny.
I didn't have a phone when I grew up, and I didn't get a car until I was 30 and bought my own. So I'm going to buy him a car. He's 15.
But we sat at the table and ate together.
Yes.
Right?
With no phone.
Yeah.
No TV.
Yeah. So we did homework when we came home from school, right?
And Mama looked at it, even though she was busy cooking. It's different though. We can't turn the times back and instantaneously get back to that. So coming back, is gun control the answer there?
No, gun control is
not.
Oh,
come on, gotta be the answer. That's what everybody's touting, gun control.
Dolores, that's just like putting a Band-Aid on a scar, right?
You still have a scar.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to go get to the root of the problem.
Oh no, then we need to arm our teachers. Let's give our teachers a gun. Train them.
Let's arm them with prayer back in school. How about that?
Well, I will say that historically, I don't remember any person of color being killed by a white person all in the midst of both of them praying. No, I don't. And I'm not being sarcastic about that. I'm saying it to say, I actually had someone who said to me, gun control is not the answer. And they were saying, okay, so you train the teachers, and you've got men and women who are formally trained, and they've got guns. And they are at the first line of control. And surprisingly, the first person who said this to me was not a person of color. And they said, what happens the first time a white teacher, male or female, sees a black or person of color, and they said, God forbid, a girl messes around and wears a turban on her head that day. Mm-hmm. All because they're terrorists. Mm-hmm. If it's happening in the street by the very people who are trained and paid to protect our children, what's to stop it from happening in the classroom? And if it does happen in the classroom, what good does it do, as in the Florida case, if a police officer does not enter the building for 4 minutes and is put on administrative leave and is then investigated and chooses to resign, but we've got 17 dead children, not including the wounded. What good does it do to fire, investigate a teacher that you've equipped with a gun, And yes, you formally train them on how to use the gun, but what we just said about it goes back to the home. You don't know the culture, the history, the foundation in that person that will possibly cause them to pull the trigger when even they didn't mean to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make this, I know we have to, wind down a little bit, but I just want, as we begin to talk about wind down and we talk about our children and the things that we can do, on a personal note, I was sharing with some of our audience about when Chucky committed suicide. I think one of the worst.
And for those who don't know, Chucky
was my oldest son. So I think for a parent, one of the worst things you could ever have to do is to bury your child. And as we are walking through this phase about gun violence and violence in the school, that's why we need to listen to our children.
Listen.
It is so, I missed so many red flags that were there, just saying, oh, you're just a child, you don't know, all the things that we do. But as a parent, it is imperative that we hear them. I mean, not just hear them, but listen to them, because they have a voice, and they are dealing with a culture that is so different than when we grew up in the early
back in my day, I don't know
70s.
what these young people talking about. They ain't got nothing to deal with. They ought to just clean the room, go to work, and make straight grades. I didn't have no TV. I ain't have no cell phone, and I turned out just fine. I don't know why they all. Isn't that what they hear?
But you think you turned out fine. You really didn't.
Amen. Like the church say amen.
And that's the problem. Right.
We think we turned out fine.
Right.
So in thinking that we turned out fine, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
We're not listening to our children, and we have got to listen to our children.
Yeah.
We have got to listen to our children. And I love that you said, even though we're winding down, no parent's perfect. I missed it. No, I haven't had the grief of a child taking their life, but I do know what it's like when you realize years later and your child's telling you something that they experienced and you want to ask, where was I? Where was I? And it does take a village to raise the children. I've been very blessed. I have no shame to say that I have a child that when they were younger was actually Facebook friends with Cheryle and not me. And you may say, well, what? You know what? They needed a friend, and I needed a friend that they could be Facebook friends on social media, because they were old enough, in my opinion, to have social media, but with Cheryle, but not feel like mama and daddy are micromanaging every thought, every feeling I'm having. And then not have a friend who's tattling on them just for the sake of tattling, but who is bold enough to have that conversation with that young person. Just to say, hey, everything okay?
But I must say, for parents who don't check if you're paying the phone bill and the cable bill and the Wi-Fi bill, you need to be checking phones. But because you never know who's luring your child.
So, this isn't where the conversation ends. This is where the conversation begins. I feel like we just had so much that we were saying, but guys, this is what we're talking about. Jumpstart the talk in your house, in your life with your children, because this is Cheryle Dawes Johnson, DeeMcNair on the air. This is the Jumpstart Talk Show. We are jumpstarting the talk. Are you going to do it? Can you do it? Will you do it? You got to do it. Save our children. Save the world with the Jumpstart Talk Show in your house.